Hey folks, welcome to the Scott and Matt podcast, and joining us today we have an awesome guest. We have Warren Talbot on behalf of Warren and Betsy Talbot, married with Luggage.com. Warren and Betsy used to be your typical type A couple. Did the regular things everyone else does in their 20s and 30s. Climbed the corporate ladder, saved money. You guys ended up. Did you both get married? Then you both got divorced, and then you got remarried, and then you climbed the corporate ladder some more, and then you kind of realized that, like, hey, what direction is our life heading into? And I believe back in 2008, you guys decided to leave the corporate world. You saved up a lot of money. You got rid of your stuff, and you went on these adventures around the world that changed the course of your activities and what you ended up doing. You guys, you're travelers, but you don't necessarily tell the people that they need to be traveling, but you use travel and your experiences to tell people, look, whatever your dream is, you can get out there and you can do your dream. So, Warren, welcome, man.
Hey, thanks, guys. It's good to be here. Yeah, we're excited. We're currently in sunny and beautiful Mexico. So we're smack in the middle of the country enjoying Dia de Flores. So it's the Day of Flowers here. So it is a beautiful day.
Why can't we have a holiday like that? What is the Day of Flowers?
No one can explain it to me. So the only thing I can understand is that at some point, everybody in town was in the middle of downtown last night around midnight. And apparently they stay up until 7 o'clock in the morning, everyone. And then at 7, all the boys walk one way and the women walk another way. And then they hand flowers to each other if they like them. And apparently the ex-president of the country was here and all of that. So that's going on. That's still going on right now. Actually, it's been going on since yesterday around noon. So it's nuts.
Did you get Betsy flowers?
I would like to be able to lie to your audience and say, yes, I did, and make myself look like a better human. But, as travelers and as entrepreneurs, one of the keys is to save money. So we chose not to save money, and we just took pictures with her holding other people's flowers. And I think that's the same, right?
Nice. Yeah. I mean, they're gonna die anyway, so the photo will definitely outlast.
It's outlive, everything. And it's worth 1,000 words. I mean, pictures are so much better.
Gotcha. So Warren, tell us, what were you doing 5-6 years ago?
5-6 years ago, I think I had just started at Microsoft. Again, I was at Microsoft eons before that, and had left and kind of begun a series of companies after that, and then went back to Microsoft, kind of slingshotted back into the company. And while I was there, I spent 2 or 3 years doing acquisitions. I acquired companies for Microsoft and because kind of working the traditional corporate life, traveling an obscene amount by myself, living.
Not that fun, isn't it?
It's not. Well, it's one of those things. If you're going to travel a lot, either do enough to where you get the elite status on the airline, so you get all the benefits, or don't travel at all. And sadly, I was earning elite status year after year, so that was.
Oh no!
And it's fine, but it's not good when you're away from your wife. It was just we were growing further apart, and it just wasn't working out for us. So that after a few years, we decided we had to change.
When did you guys get married?
We married in 2004. It's April 2004. So yeah, it's coming up on 9 years. We were married back in DC. We were kind of living our lives as corporate drones at the time.
Yeah, what's that like relationship wise? These type A corporate drones. I mean, you guys are. It's nice now. You guys are more. You got a little more relaxed, a little bit more chill, but you're still go-getters accomplishing things. What's it like to live and date and marry somebody who's just as ambitious, but in the corporate setting?
Well, it's funny, it can be summarized in a story. We both traveled a lot for our business, and we saw each other about, probably about 10, 12 days a month. Just because of all the travel that we did. And we actually set a date where we could have a date in the Denver airport so we could get together for a drink. And we thought that was the coolest thing. I mean, that was like, espionage, spy. That was great. And for us, that was what living the corporate life was like, is the opportunity to meet in a foreign city. Ooh, the Denver airport. You guys have been
sexy.
It's hot. Oh, man, there is nothing sexier than that. And I remember sitting there and we looked at each other, and all the passion and excitement and interest that we thought was going to happen, it was the exact opposite. We looked at each other and said, we're either going to get divorced or we're going to have to stop this. It was just the two of us were driven way too hard And we just weren't enjoying our lives together. We weren't putting ourselves first. So what happened was we were letting our careers dominate every decision that we made.
Yeah, that's definitely common. Go ahead, Scott.
Yeah. I know there was a one particular event that kind of brought everything to the forefront and made you guys kind of finally take the leap you kind of been planning for and whatnot. Like, can you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. I mean, like everyone else, you have this dream of retirement, but it's so many years away. At the time, we were 37, and we just, we had this vision of what retirement would look like, and it would be travel when we were, 60. But Betsy's brother had a heart attack. He was 35 at the time, and he had a major heart attack, and that kind of really shook Betsy up. Just the idea of your younger brother having a heart attack and then not knowing exactly what was going to happen. Luckily, he recovered, and he's better now. But that kind of stopped us, and we said, holy crap, we need to kind of figure something else out. And about a year later, we had a friend, very close friend of ours, who had a brain aneurysm, and she was still in the hospital. We didn't know she was blind at the time. They had to shave off all her hair. I mean, she was just not the vivacious person she was, and we weren't sure if she was going to live. And that was what kind of was the tipping point. It was at that moment we decided we had to do something different, and we realized that life was just too short, and we weren't sure that we were ever going to make it to 60. So why not try to figure out what we could do now to change our lives? So we'd already made some steps along the way. We had moved to a city we loved, which was Seattle. We had decided that we were going to change how we lived. So we got rid of TV. We did the little things that just to live more time together. And Betsy quit her job and started a company that allowed us to stop the crazy travel. That beginning was really the beginning, like the second beginning of our lives, I guess. But it was during an alcohol evening. I assume that your audience is okay if they know that I drink, right? Yeah, they're gonna be all right.
No drinking, no partying.
No drinking. Yeah. So we had a few margaritas have a very dangerous effect on us.
To make sure if you're listening, take out your notepad. This is the action plan. This is the action plan.
This is it. Key one, margaritas. It does help, and it doesn't help if you have one because you can't stop it. Just one. They're like Lay's potato chips.
Exactly.
You have to just keep eating. So we had a few margaritas, and we asked ourselves the question around the table with a bunch of friends: what would you do if you weren't going to live until 40? What is the one change you would do? And we knew we would travel. And literally, by the end of the evening, we were extremely drunk, but we had a plan and a vision of what our dream would look like. And the next morning we woke up and we literally set the date, started putting the budget together, and established a plan of when we were going to leave to go on this trip.
Yeah. Now, tell us some logistics. You guys are I like your organization and your structure with some stuff that you do in your life. What were the logistics of planning this? I know that you saved money and you're thinking that eventually you quit your job, and and then you had to get rid of you had to sell things. I mean, I know this was a course of, in all transparency for people out there, a lot of this stuff doesn't really happen overnight. These thoughts kind of evolve for some time, and then what were the logistics? How long did it take, and what did you specifically do in order to be able to do what you do now?
Yeah, it was 25 months from the day that we made the decision until we left. And so the first step was we had to start creating momentum. I think that was probably the most important thing for us because it was a massive decision. And it was one that was made over the course of a couple hours. So you have to start making movement towards it, or else it's too easy to die. It's like if you have a vision for a new company or you have a dream for a painting, if you don't start taking some action towards it immediately, it's going to wither, and someone's going to talk you out. Someday. Yeah, I'll do it someday. Yeah, someday is the proper future for everyone, and no one puts a date to it. So we knew that there were a few things from our history of being corporate people. We knew we had to put a date, so we set our date that day. We knew it was October 1st, 2010. And then money-wise, we had no idea. So we just made it up. I made up a budget, and I said, okay, I think it'll cost $75,000 a year to travel. We'll do it for 1 year, leaving October 1st, 2010. Boom. That's it. That was the planning for day one. And then it was just sitting down with a globe, and doing the fun stuff. Once you have the rough kind of challenging aspects, then it's just logistics. Then you're just, filling in the gaps of what is it going to take. at that moment, I started just making a list of all the decisions that had to be made. Not decisions that we had to make that day, nothing scary, just, okay, are we going to sell the house or are we going to rent it? When do I tell my company? When do I tell my family? All the big scary things. But for me, I like to have them on a piece of paper. I don't know about you guys, but as long as I have them written down, then there are things that I can put into dates as to when I can address them, and then they're not scary anymore. Then I'm done. Then I can just look at a map and say, where do I want to go? What will what will Namibia be like? What will Antarctica be like? What will Russia be like? That kind of thing.
And Warren, I'm interested to know the reactions you received when you told your family, told your boss. You say, "Hey, I'm quitting my job and I'm selling all my stuff, and we're going to go nomadic from here on out."
Well, in the earliest stages when we started telling friends, it was just we were going to go for a little bit. We were just going to go for a year. A little bit. I don't know why that seems like a little bit now, but
a year. It's not much. Well, now
it goes by so fast.
It does, yeah, it does.
So, but when I first started telling people it was a year, and that actually proved out to be very well for my friends and family, because then they had to get comfortable with a year, and then we came back and said we think it's going to be 2 years, and then it just progressed, and it towards the end of the first year of saving, we actually said, okay, we think we're going to sell everything. So everyone started getting more comfortable with the progression. I think that helped. There were some friends that we lost completely for a variety of reasons.
Tell us. I think this is interesting. I'm going to interrupt. Tell us, what did no names need to be mentioned, but what kind of things did people throw crap in your way? People tried to. I mean, I don't think people tried to directly stop you, but what was that? What was your experience with that? Because I've had this happen a few times.
Yeah, anytime you step off the path, you're going to have different reactions. And there are two forms of them. The first is the people who think you're insane. They're like, you are fucking crazy, right? You have lost your mind and decided that you're never going to be able to fit in society again. You're doing a horrible thing for your career. You're doing a terrible thing for your marriage. You guys are never going to make it. Kind of everything you could imagine. And this came from one of. I'll give you one example. So this is one individual who just basically threw everything out there. And, they had very, very legitimate points. I mean, was this the best thing to do for my career? No. Was this dangerous and for our relationship, spending 24/7 together? Yes. However, this is our life. So if we don't take risks in our lives and, we do it in business all the time, why shouldn't we do it in our lives? That's the most important thing. Nothing is gained if you just hang back and take the normal path. And so that was the first one. People really unhappy with my career choice because I was at my maximum earning potential at the time. I had a good career trajectory, so it was really easy for me to look forward. So that was one aspect, and I think a lot of people just kind of didn't understand that. The second one is people that we were living a life that was two people, dinks, two adults with no kids. We made good money. So we ate out a lot. I mean, a lot. 15 times a week we were eating out. And we had friends that we went out to eat with all the time. Well, as soon as we decided to change our budget, that was the first thing that went. So we had to start saving money, so we couldn't go out with them anymore. And they had no interest whatsoever in changing their life, which is fine. But we lost them as friends, and they told us, look, we just can't be friends with you anymore because you don't want the same things as we do. We want the bigger house, we want the car, we want to eat out all the time. And I think that there's an aspect where some people, and luckily most of our friends were not this way, but there are some people that feel that you going on a budget reflects upon them, and we are judging them how they spend money. And so it's just weird stuff that people come up with, and I understand it, and I appreciate their concerns because it's weird, but it doesn't mean that we're going to change our minds.
Wow. Yeah, it sounds like, you talk about it almost nonchalantly, but it sounds like you guys dealt with more opposition than I think most people, and especially, being, like you said, going out with friends, going out to eat 10, 15 times a week. That's definitely, when you kind of uproot that, it's really kind of like hey, well, this is not aligned with our values anymore. We're really going in this direction. And I got to give you props because you sound like you've done your ripping up the roots for you guys seemed like you attacked it really head on, and you really had a lot of work to do. So props.
Thanks, man. I appreciate that. Yeah, it's it's anything you do in life. If you're going to lose weight, you have to put your eye on your goal and you have to work hard. This shit is not easy. I don't care what change you're making in your life. Change is hard, and it requires constant, diligent action. But more importantly, it requires decisions, hard choices. And you have to always weigh it. You say, okay, would I rather eat this cheesecake or lose 20 pounds, right? And every day you have to make that decision. And every day we had to make the decision, would we rather spend this money on going out to dinner, on new things for the house, or whatever new clothes we might want? Or would I rather another day on the road? Would I rather another 5 days on the road? Those are the decisions you have to make. And I think that's the action and the decisions that we make are the things that keep people from not going after their dreams.
Definitely. I paused, Scott, see if to let you ask a question, then I totally had one lined up and lost it. So we're just going to stall on air here for about 4 seconds. Scott and I were talking beforehand. I'm like, Scott, I tend to jump in and ask questions a lot, so I will breathe when our guests are done answering. So I just did the breathing part, and then I completely, since nothing happened, I had 3 questions lined up in my head, and I just lost them.
Do not breathe. This is the key. Don't breathe.
I'm not. Scott, you gotta jump in. Well, it's funny. Just you gotta be transparent with these things. I think the one comment I wanted to make was that a lot of people think it's they'd rather not deal with facing these hard challenges. Whether you want to make a shift in your career or end a relationship with a friend or whomever. A lot of people kind of avoid these things, and it's the analogy of long-term pain or short-term pain. Do you want to deal with the pain right now? It'll be intense, but it'll force you to grow. Or I think it's a lot harder to just deal with the slow, inevitable long-term pain of realizing that you're not living a fulfilling life. I mean, you're going to end up living a pretty miserable and shitty existence. And I say it quite bluntly because I want people who are listening, who are on the fence with this stuff, to step the hell up, step the fuck up. Ooh, get a little harsh here already, but no, I mean, seriously.
It's on the iTunes now.
You can't curse on iTunes? I think you can.
You have to put explicit if you curse on it.
This is an explicit. This is an explicit podcast. If you're listening, if you're listening, and I can reach through the computer screen right now, and you're on the fence of doing something in life, I want to slap you in the face and tell you to step up and do it. So that's my little rant there.
We should. There's something. It's pretty timely that we're talking about this because I think 2 days ago there's an article on theonion.com. It's just perfect for this. It's basically like, go out there, find that thing you're passionate about, and do it 10% of the time.
I saw that. I did see that.
We got a link to that. Everyone's got to see that. It's wonderful. And if you are on the fence and you read that, you'll realize how silly it sounds, and you'll be like, oh no, but wait, I'm doing that. And so it's kind of a good wake up call.
Yeah, we always laugh about the fact that the thing that's most important in our lives we may do less than 10% of the time. And I will say though that we loved our life, and so there's an aspect of our lives that we truly loved. I mean, I had a great career. I loved my job. Right?
Yeah,
I really
sounds
did.
cool.
And I got to do something that I enjoyed each and every day. It was stressful, of course, but I didn't run away from a career or a life. I ran towards something that was far more important. And I think that's the piece, is that you may not be terribly unhappy. You may not be living in drudgery. You just want something more. You want, you've always wanted to be a painter. You've wanted to be a race car driver. You've wanted to do something, right? Whatever that is, you've put it off. And that putting it off and not putting a deadline to it, not putting a number to it, not making a focus of 90% of your effort and all your decisions, that's what keeps you from doing it. And, it doesn't necessarily, if you just want to kind of live the life that you have now, then good. You've already made the commitment. You've already made the decisions. You don't have to do anything different. Honestly, this is going to be the easiest conversation you've ever had with yourself. Don't do anything, and the same things will continue to occur to you.
Yeah. Speaking of that, since you guys after your sexy Denver airport date, what kind of dates and adventures do you take Betsy on these days?
These days, they're well, we travel together full time.
Well, so right now you guys are you're a little bit relaxing, and you're I know that you're writing now in Mexico, but and you're kind of stationed. But you recently were you guys were all over doing great stuff. Share with us like a cute memory, not just of travel, but more importantly your relationship and something that kind of sits as a strong memory or brought you guys more connected in a sense.
Sure. So we were coming back from. I love this phrase, by the way. We're coming back from Antarctica. Cause
as one does.
You know what? We have 66% of the people on the show right now have already been to Antarctica. This is quite a. And I say it too, Scott. Like, I have an upcoming trip traveling all of Central and South America, and after having met Scott back when we met, Scott told me about his trip to Antarctica, and I'm like, if I'm in Argentina, that's one of the closest points other than Australia to Antarctica. And you said a really cool way, so we'll go. But Scott, I mean, back to you, Warren. We'll talk about Antarctica a bit, but I think it is a great statement. It is a great statement.
It is. It feels good to say it too. So we're coming back.
Tell us again. Where were you coming from? All right, I killed it.
I started talking to Betsy about what it's like, because we're on the Drake Passage, and it's been unpleasant.
What's the Drake Passage?
Oh yeah.
Sorry, the Drake Passage is that strip of water that exists. Essentially, it goes all the way around the globe, all around the southern hemisphere, right north of Antarctica between the land masses. But it's specifically the passage between South America and Antarctica. And it's the kind of the worst sea in the world, because the winds have nothing to stop them, so they whirl around the Earth. Maybe it's this way. Neil Tyson, Degrassi to be pissed off. But the winds can get up to 200 miles an hour. And so it creates these massive waves, and it's very unpredictable, and it's an unpleasant place to cross in a ship.
Wow. So a real test.
It really is, and it was. We were going across, and we had just gotten through this 18-hour storm, and
18-hour storm.
18-hour storm.
This is worse than an airplane, because when I go on an airplane, like, I come to the realization I might die, and then I'm okay with that. And then when I land, I'm like, but that's like 2-3 hours. This is 18 hours.
It is. It's 18 hours, but they're, this is a digression. But everything I do in life is a digression, so it's fine.
Yeah.
But you're going through, and the fact is, you're never really scared, but it's horrible. It's just uncomfortable. But as you're going through it, you're rolling, and the ship rolls. They said that the ship rolled to 47 degrees, so that means that you're more than halfway. So it's nuts. But during one of the rolls, we're sitting in our cabin, which is on the sixth deck, so it's way up above the water. It rolls enough to where our window goes underwater. And I'm looking out the window, I'm thinking, this is odd, we shouldn't be looking outside. And 9 whales are right outside of the window. Like literally right outside the window, just riding along beside us. And it's like the entire 18 hours was worth that. That was right. It was 30 seconds, and then they're jumping out of the, kind of coming up and reaching right at the top of the wave as I'm looking at them. All 18 hours worth it, honestly. I could care less about the rest. So, yeah.
Oh, wow.
But so we never would have seen it without the storm. So I was all right with the storm. But anyway, so we get done with the storm, and Betsy and I are talking about it's first time we've ever really been on a ship. We'd never cruised and never done anything. And she said, I'd really like to go across an ocean in a boat. I want to see what it's like. I think that would be cool. That afternoon, I was talking to the lady who she's like the hotel manager of the ship, the love boat lady. Yeah, I forgot her name. The one, she kind of coordinates everything. We're having a conversation, and she says, I asked her what she's doing next. What is the next plan for the ship? She said, we have to take it north to go to the Arctic, because the Antarctic summer is ending. So we've got to go to the Arctic, and that's what we do. And so we take the ship across, and it takes us 6 weeks, and we go up, and then we go to England and spend some time and blah, blah. I said, can we ride with you? My wife really would like to go and cross the ocean on a ship. And she said, why would you want to do that? That sounds ridiculous. No one's ever asked that question. No passengers go on these. All we do is clean the boat, and we paint, and that's it. It's boring. And I said, well, can you ask? So she went to her bosses, and I talked to the company, and 3 days later they had said, yeah, you can ride with us. You'll be the first ever passengers, and you can write about it on the way and see if it's something you're interested in. And it taught me two things. One, always listen to my wife and ask whenever possible what I can do to make her happy. But it also
brownie
taught
points.
me the importance of brownie points. But it taught me the importance of asking because you never know what crazy things they're going to say yes to. So that as far as relationship, I am still using those points each and every day.
I think that's a really awesome story about kind of. I think a lot of people live within, artificial boundaries and rules, and just by simply ask. I mean, I think that's to stress something that seems small, because it's not about the action that you took, but it's about the philosophy and the mindset where you came from, and you approached an idea as, hey, this hasn't been done before, or we haven't done this, but let's give it a stab and let's just ask. What's the worst that can happen? Someone tells you it can't, but then you went on this amazing voyage, and you went across what ocean did you cross?
The Atlantic.
It's the Atlantic.
We went across the Atlantic.
You came up from Antarctica up to about the coast of Africa or the coast of Portugal, right?
Well, we went up through Montevideo. We bunkered off of Montevideo, which means basically stopping and having a ship come and fuel you up. And then we crossed basically northeast, crossed the equator and head up towards went to Cape Verde. And then from there, we just went north and northeast to Falmouth, England. We were in Falmouth by 5.5 weeks later. Yeah.
Wow. And
so
Scott,
really cool.
And Scott, you had an interesting experience. You were telling me about your crossing. You went from Argentina. You took a boat as well to Antarctica. Really? What was that like, Scott?
Yeah. Well, it was the same thing. Same thing Warren was saying. It was really very memorable. Like, I can't say it was a pleasurable experience, but it's the same thing where the boat, just like on a normal day, it was pretty quick that most people stopped going to the eating times, like the breakfast or the lunch. You had set times in the boat, and maybe they attended the first meal, but after that, everyone was basically confined to quarters. You could just hear people in the next room was just throwing up in the toilet. And luckily, I don't usually get seasick, so I was all right. But even I missed a few meals just because I just didn't feel hungry. But when I went up to eat my meal one time for lunch, I remember that every time the ship tilted, all the silverware would fall off the table, and so you had to hold on to your silverware and stuff. And so some of the crew came over with a spray bottle, and they would spray the tablecloth to give it some friction or some traction, so that the table, the plates and stuff, wouldn't just fall off when the ship listed. And I really remember this, you would be going up, and you'd have to time your movement with the boat. So when it's going this way, you have to be just going back and forth. Because if you didn't, you were just going to get slammed into the wall. It was wow. Great. And then the last thing was when you're at night, you're sleeping in these beds. I was in a double berth. My father was with me, and you had to put your back against the wall, and then there was halfway down there was on the side of the bed there was a bar or a wooden kind of thing there, and you had to kind of put your legs against that, kind of curl up, fetal position, so that your back is against the wall, your knees are against this wooden plank, because otherwise the ship would just toss you out of bed. So you had to kind of wedge yourself into the bed. Yeah.
You probably got such solid sleep that night.
Oh, yeah, it was great.
I've already been sold on Antarctica, but I am very sold. But tell people, when a lot of people, Warren, what are some things that you guys what do you do when you go to Antarctica?
Antarctica, Scott knows, he's been there as well. So, every day you have a couple landings, and you get out in Zodiacs, and you drive them to wherever. Usually it's to see.
What's a Zodiac?
A Zodiac's like an inflatable boat. And it's bigger than this. I don't know why I'm holding my hands up. I always do this. It's an inflatable boat with a big old outboard motor, and it holds about, what do you say, 12 people, 10, 12 people, something like that. And they use it to shuttle people on and off the larger, because the cruise ship holds about 120 people.
Right.
So you basically are shuttling them back and forth in order to get on on land. And usually you may do a hike on land to hike up to a little mountain point, or you go to look at seals and the penguins. There's so many penguins. It's amazing. So and then you get an opportunity. You can either kayak down there, or we camped on the mainland one night and spent time there. Amazing, absolutely amazing.
That's awesome. Scott, were you saying something?
Yeah. I was going to say, well, number one, penguins are very stinky. And number two is that if anybody's thinking about doing Antarctica, make sure you're not going on a giant cruise ship with like 400 people, because you're not going to be able to get on land very often. Make sure you keep it, even if it's a little bit more money. I mean, this is probably something you're only going to do once in your life. Make sure it's about 100 people. I know mine was about 100 people, and Warren's is about 100 people, and keep it to about that, because we saw these giant cruise ships going down there, and even though the ride over, it makes it a little bit easier because the ship's so big. It's not worth it, because then you're going to be lucky, just getting out once a day, whereas the smaller boats can get out 3 times a day in different locations.
Correct. Yeah,
that's a great tip.
Really cool.
That's a great tip. Warren, do you have what? You guys are in. Where are you now in Mexico?
We're in Guanajuato, which is, literally I can look outside my window and see the geographic center of Mexico. So we're 5 hours northwest of Mexico City. So if anybody knows the geography of Mexico, it's essentially just south. If you drew a line south from Houston, Texas, we'd be kind of south and west of that. So.
I see. And what's your plan?
How far are you from Zacatecas?
I don't know where that is. Where is that?
It's central Mexico. It's like if you go south west, I believe, of Monterrey for a few hours. So I would say it's kind of central Mexico.
Okay.
I did
It'd be
a road
further
trip
south
once
than us,
where I was
then.
driving Monterrey and Zacatecas. Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. It'd be further south than us, most likely, because we're up near Leon, so I think Monterrey must be south of us. I'm guessing, so you can tell that I'm horrible. Once we got here, finally, after all the travel of the last year, we were so excited to be in one place for a little bit. So yeah, we've been a little bit of hermits for the last month.
It's nice. It's a nice thing. Yeah, traveling.
It is.
It takes a lot of energy to move. You're using a lot of glucose, as I say it, to make a lot of important travel. Definitely tests you and kind of puts you in situations where you got to use more of your oomph, got to use more of your power to problem solve and I think travel is very important for teaching problem solving, being creative and being resourceful too is just a huge thing. I think once you travel a little bit, your whole mindset, your even like your kinesthesiology, like everything just kind of gets adapted, and you become like this. You don't become a different person. You just become like a newer, kind of more suited for the world version of yourself. I think a lot of humans we've kind of gotten soft in a sense. We're not these like. We used to be all hardcore, like hunting lions in the jungle, and now it's like people don't realize it, but people are they kind of, you get trapped and they get scared in their own ways. But I had a question I was going to say at the end of that, but I just found myself rambling on.
I don't think there's any doubt at all that travel is challenging, and it's not for everybody. Not everybody wants. We have a lot of people that comment on our site that said, "Look, I would never want to go travel like that. I like my home. I want to spend time in my garden. I want to." But everyone still has a dream. Everyone still has something they want to do that's different. We love to travel, and it is hard, and it is fun, and it is wonderful. But there's so many people in our lives that wouldn't be interested in it. The idea of going across, across Europe and Asia on buses and trains, camels and horses, that doesn't sound interesting to them. Whereas for me, it was exciting. It was wonderful, and we have to.
I can't even understand that. I can't relate.
Yeah, right.
You're right. Sometimes people are just like, I'd rather live vicariously through you than to do it myself.
Yeah, you guys are both. So Betsy and Warren. Well, you know what? I want to come back to this in a sec. We've been talking about traveling for a bit. Let's just jump it around. What are the most common what are the most common dreams that people share with you that they have, that you guys come across that aren't travel? What do people out there want to do?
So a lot of people want to become artists. So we have several people that want to become painters or sculptors. So we have several of our readers that have commented that this is what they want to do, and they want to figure out how to make it commercially viable. A number of writers, as you would imagine, I mean, we're both authors, so we attract other authors. So people want to know how to, not just how to write. Writing is about 35% of the problem. Then it's like, okay, how do I make money from writing? And that's a much more challenging aspect. So they want to figure out how to do that. A lot of people want to start businesses. We have someone right now that we're talking to on Monday for our Dream Makeover segment, and they want to do a knitting business. They create craft designs, and they want to be able to create a business out of that. And they want to figure out all the aspects that it takes, not just from having the dream and making it happen, but also to, what do I do when I leave my career to do these crazy things? And so all of them have one common thread, which is fear. There is fear governing all of them when it comes to taking this leap. Because whether you're going to be an artist or a writer or a business owner, an entrepreneur, each one of those is a different path. And meaning that it's different from the normal. Thus, it is scary. You probably don't know someone that quit their job and decided they were going to go out and start painting. That just seems odd to people. So they're fearful. Can they make enough? The same thing with starting a business. Many of us don't know people who started their own businesses, especially a small business, and they decided they wanted to quit their job and go and create this knitting business and sell things via Etsy or Amazon or whatever. So we have to realize that those steps and overcoming the fear is the same in all of our dreams.
Wow. How did you go about learning? It doesn't sound like you were writing your whole life. How did you guys go about learning the writing process, doing your research, and the publishing aspect?
Oh, I wish there was. I wish it was something that I would say that we learned it. We kind of like absorbed all this information and then we put it out into the world. It wasn't that way. We just learned it through using what skills we had in the business world. We learned how to create deadlines. We learned how to work really hard towards something and that deadline. And we constantly learned, and we knew we didn't know a lot of things, so we asked a lot of professionals who already did it. Those three things were the keys to success for us. But when I look back at what we didn't know, there was just so much, but we weren't scared because, first step was write a book. Okay, that seems hard, but Betsy's always wanted to be a writer, and she's written most of her life. So the idea of sitting down to do it, and then we fell into key roles, right? And it just so happened that she kind of writes the first draft, and then I go through and do all the initial editing, and we storyboard the entire concept. It's like anything. It's like starting a business. I think both of you guys have started your own companies as well. First thing you do is sit down and you just kind of lay out everything that you're talking about. What am I going to make? How much money are we going to charge? Who are going to be our customers? It's the exact same thing in writing a book. So we followed the same path. Then once the book was done, then the hard work began. Then it became about, learning how to publish and market. We live in a wonderful age where self-publishing is not only possible, it is viable. So we did a lot of research on exactly who had done it before us, what steps had they taken, what resources are out there, where's the revenue coming from? It's a revenue problem. So then it became, Amazon's number one, iTunes number two, Barnes & Noble's number three. So you start to do the math, and you figure out what you need to go through. I like to solve problems technically, so I could go in and actually solve those, do the formatting. And then step three was the marketing. And that's an area that, frankly, is the hardest of all three of those. Marketing, because you don't market for a week. You market for as long as you want the book to sell.
Forever.
So forever. If you want your book to stop selling, stop marketing it. It's a real simple problem. So, it's like anything else. You have to market. And so you're always out there pushing and talking to people and communicating your message through a variety of areas. We're getting better at it, but frankly, we released our first book a year and a half ago now. And it's been, it's a learning process. It is challenging to understand that. And I think that we learned it through osmosis, if you will, and hard work.
Right. Yeah. It sounds like you definitely, you mix kind of strategy and preparation, but you don't stay there too long. As soon as you got enough not even full confidence. You have enough to just kind of take the leap and then move in that direction. So, and I think a good point that you guys probably just do now without much thought is really going out there, like you said, contacting people who are experts, contacting people who have done it before, following their system or taking aspects of that model, of that system that worked for them and make them work for you, rather than just kind of running out and trying to blaze a whole new trail. So
correct. Plus, I mean, there's certain things that just come naturally. I mean, you look at it and you say, okay, what's it going to take to start writing a book? And, you know, we just started writing our 4th book last week. And so you just sit down and you come up with ideas, and you sit down for the first month, and it's not structured, and you have to be comfortable with that. So we are learning, but some of that we're making up as we go. Sorry, Scott, you were asking a question.
No, I was just going to say, you've been talking about the steps needed to write the book and everything. I was to say, can you tell us about your latest masterpiece?
Well, there's 2 of them, so I'll talk about the one that's out that you can buy now. That makes it a little more enjoyable. We wrote, it's actually our first book, and we just released the 2nd edition of it. It's called Dream, Save, Do, an action plan for dreamers. That book is designed to give you the step-by-step plan to create the life you want and the life that you crave. It goes through all of our story about how we changed our lives. It starts with the beginning in Denver, the story I told earlier, and progresses up until the time that we took off and what we're doing now. But we updated it with a bunch of case studies of people who read the book initially.
I lost Warren. Did you lose him?
Yep, I think so.
Warren,
Let's see if he comes back.
We'll see if he comes back.
Show that not everything's perfect.
Yeah, not everything's perfect. And we're back live. Welcome. We don't know what just happened. A little bit of an intermission show there. Hopefully we gave you a chance to grab a glass of water or something. Warren, do you remember what you were talking about before?
I do. I was talking about Dream, Save, Do, an action plan for dreamers. It's our step-by-step guide that we wrote to help people go after their dreams and whatever it is they want most in life. We wrote it originally when we were in Scotland. We wrote it with we wanted to share with others who were asking the question of, I want to do something different, but I don't know how to get started. So we wrote it for them, and it was very, very successful. We've been very happy with the results. We started getting a lot of people who wrote to us telling about the changes they had made in their own lives. So we decided to do a 2nd edition, and the 2nd edition incorporates their stories. So you can see people that decided to quit and start a cake decorating business, a woman who became an author and started her own company, a guy who took a sabbatical, a woman who changed her entire life in order to fit around her bipolar disorder that she's dealt with her entire life, but has struggled how to create the structure in her life necessary. So we incorporated those in because each one of them used the exact steps in our book to become and change their lives and to follow the life that they crave. And so it's been a really fun story to be able to share with others, and it's really propelled us to be more interested in helping people to follow their dreams. Wow, Scott. I feel very salesy now. I feel very dirty. So.
Especially that we left you hanging at the end there.
Well, no, I was wondering. I was actually wondering.
No, honestly, I'm always happy with speechless crowds. You're stunned. You're probably online right now buying it. It's dreamsavedo.com. You're probably you can't stop yourself. I understand.
I was wondering if Matt was still with us, because on my end, his video is frozen.
Oh, really?
So I was thinking, oh no, Warren just went through the entire description of the book, and now Matt's not recording it. Like, he dropped off the line somehow. It's like, oh geez, we have to have him tell about his book for a 3rd time.
Warren, tell us. Oh God. No, I think you guys have a great story. I mean, your work is really. I've told you this, guys, a number of times. Your work is just it's refined and it's to the point, and you really kind of get the message across in an easily digestible manner. And your website, check out Warren's website. They're over at marriedwithluggage.com. Just some great articles, great videos over there, and I stop by from time to time. I mean, I think I've read your about, or the page that you guys call Our Story. I think I've read that page like 4 times. And every time I read it, I'm like, man, this is so well written.
Well, every time we rewrite it, so yeah, the constant change and struggles that you go through as you refine your message, or as things change, we try to keep it up to date. So we're always doing changes to it. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm always interested. Go ahead, Scott.
I was going to say, since we kind of talked about resources, and then we were talking about your book and whatnot, and then of course we also mentioned how for the first year you had a budget in mind, you're saving up for it, and you hit it, and then you went on the road. How have you guys been able to continue along the same path as far as how do you budget? How do you stay within budget? And how do you get the money to keep doing this? And because that's such a huge thing when you talk to people, either they have to have the inclination, they have to have the time, and they have to have the money. And so
Correct.
You had the inclination, you had the time, and how do you, obviously with no money, I mean, it's not something you always want to focus towards, and that's,
Right.
the whole thing. You want to leave that life, but you still need resources to continue doing what you're doing. So how do you make that happen?
So, well, the first thing was we were diligent in our savings plan, and so savings is a challenging thing, but we write about it extensively, and either on our website or in our books. But we stripped out everything that wasn't essential to our lives and did not directly focus on the life that we wanted to live. So whether it be cable or eating out or haircuts, all of them went. I mean, look at this thing. I mean, this is out of control. So, I don't even cut my hair anymore.
I didn't cut my hair for 2 years, and I felt so good on how much money I saved on not getting a haircut.
See, it's been great. It's been 10 months for me. So I'm living the dream.
Keep going, man.
I'm saving money. But no, so the first part was just saving, and we saved as much as possible. And when we decided that we wanted to do Antarctica, which, as you know, is not cheap, it did not fit into our budget at all. I actually started a web development company with only the specific intention of saving enough money or making enough money to send us to Antarctica. And literally, like 2 months before we left, we had just enough in the bank to go to Antarctica. So it was a very nice addition. So it was a side job that we took. But we spent every day, we woke up and got really good at understanding what we were spending, but we also spent every day analyzing our expenses to make sure that we could squeeze every dollar into our savings account as possible. That was really the critical aspect before we left.
You track finances, correct? You track income and expenses?
Of course. We always have, since we started on this journey, we tracked everything of what we spent. And since we left, we've been, because one of the struggles we had is we didn't know how much it was going to cost. So when we did all this research, it was really hard to find what it was going to cost. Because as you know, as long-term travelers, there are people out there, but you may have one guy that he stays at the Marriott and the other person sleeps on the beach every night. Those are two vastly different scenarios. So what would it cost for a 40-year-old couple to go and travel the world for, a year? So I decided to just start tracking every dollar that we spent, and we actually published that on our website called RTW Expenses, and we've been doing that now for 29 months, and we've tracked every dollar we've spent, and it costs us $25,000 a year. Consistently to travel this way, full time. Now we do a lot of things to make sure that we keep costs down. We stay in places longer. If we eat out only at lunch, not at dinner. We are huge fans of happy hour. I mean, who's not? I mean, the first word happy, and they're never an hour. They're always 3 or 4 hours. I can be happy for a long time. We take advantage of those as much as possible, and we continue to do that. And now it's just part of our lifestyle. We know how to spend. We know how to save. And in that course of that time, we've spent, like you. I mean, Scott, you're currently in Europe. Europe is wicked expensive.
Yep.
But we've spent 8 months there out of our time, and we figured out how to do it cheaper, just like you have. I mean, sometimes you have to, deal with boxes full of things, but we all deal with them in different ways.
We can't mention that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he just brought it up, and so now we have to go towards that. I won't go into the specifics, but basically, I'm in Berlin right now. I just got here yesterday. We rented a 4-story apartment in downtown Berlin, and of course, it's someone's home, and they have it on Airbnb, so they're renting it out to us.
How many people are you with?
Right now we have 7 in here, but as of Monday it'll just be 4.
Okay.
And so we're kind of we got beds like all over the place, like on the ground and whatnot. But I was moving stuff around to kind of get the room ready for the podcast, and I kind of stumbled upon some things that maybe are more of a personal nature to the guy that lives here. And
I hope he doesn't find your show.
I'm sure they will. I don't think I'll even ever meet these people. It's my buddy that kind of rented this place out and is dealing with the owner. But yeah, let's just say they were of a personal nature, and I was just like, whoa, and then I just kind of put them over in the corner, and I'll definitely be sure to put them right back where I found them as soon as I'm done here.
But see, that's the thing, is it's a funny story for all of us, but it's a point when you travel, and especially when you travel on a budget, you have to be ready for surprises, and some of them are going to make better stories than others, but they're all going to make stories.
Definitely. Yeah, a friend of mine. What did he say? It's like, the outcome is either going to be it's either going to go really well or it's going to go really funny. It's not going to be this good or bad thing. It's like, Scott, I think a lot of times people will be like, they ask me like, what they perceive as a negative situation or a negative event, and they say, how was it? And I say, it was quite an experience. It's not something that is a positive thing, but you're very happy that you went through it for that memory, for what you learned from it, etc.
Afterward, yeah. And now at the time it might be pretty horrible.
Yeah.
It may be the worst thing in the world for however long it's going on. But
sure.
But luckily, if you look back on those types of experiences and then laugh about them and just be like, hey, you know what? That's another story to add to my repertoire. Then that's great. That's what I tend to do with every single thing that happens to go wrong. It tends to just kind of be transformed into a funny story. Whereas at the time, I was just like, get me out of here. This is horrible. Later on, I can just laugh about it.
Yeah, I think whenever I'm like, even when I'm sick or any sort of like, whether I'm sick or I'm like lost somewhere, it's inside of my head. I always know that at some point I will be back in my bed, like sleeping. I always know that there is like, I'm always looking at the outcome. I had a crazy experience in Barcelona a few years ago where some guy accused me of stealing his credit cards and his passport, and then somehow I thought he was about to stab me, and I ended up throwing the guy on the ground, and then like a taxi driver thought I was like beating him up, so then the taxi driver came and like checked me over, and then somehow I got up and I was just like completely freaked out, and I just started to run. This is like 4:00 in the morning, and I have a random taxi driver and a drunk dude who's speaking to me in Spanish, and I'm like barely know anything at the time, and I'm like, I don't know what the hell you're talking about. I just take off. I end up slipping on these roads, and then somehow I get thrown up against this fence with these guys. Luckily, I don't get punched in the face. And then all the Moroccan prostitutes come out of the woodworks, and one chick takes off her shoe, hits me in the head like it's ridiculous. And the whole time I'm thinking, where the hell are the damn police? Now I'm like laughing about the story because I've told this a few times, but it scared the crap out of me. And then what was even worse was when the cops came. They first of all, they came and I automatically looked like the bad guy. So the cops arrive. The guy's saying, this guy stole my credit card. This guy stole my passport. The cops like twist my arm in a baton and stick the baton in a fence. I'm like jacked up like this. They're going through all my pockets. They pull out my license. They're like, Americano. And then like, I don't know, pretty much at the end, here's the end. I'm like, I don't know where I am. I'm 25 minutes walking distance from where I'm staying. It's 4:00 in the morning. The situation gets broken up. And the cops just say, okay, you to the credit card dude. They say, you go that way and you go that way. And man, I was like, that's it? Like, you're just going to tell us to walk in opposite directions? So I remember walking, and Barcelona has all these like intertwined maze-like labyrinth streets. It was the scariest damn walk of my life. But anyways, like I said, it's a good story.
But you got to keep the credit cards and passport, right?
Yeah, exact. Oh, about that. Yeah, no, it was. I remember getting back, and I was traveling with my buddy, and I told him. I didn't make our hiking trip the next day. We were supposed to wake up at 7, and I got home at like 5:45 or something. And I tried to tell him the story, and he was just like, oh, yeah, all right, I'll see you later. I was like, no, man, you don't understand. But Warren, I think you mentioned something recently, and I know you guys started a podcast over at Married with Luggage, and in one of your recent podcasts, you talked about kind of the power in trying new things. And again, whether it be somebody, trying new things can be as simple as like going to the bookstore and researching your cake decorating business or something like that. But you talked about kind of what happens to sort of your brain or again, your kind of attitude and how you see yourself existing in the world. People you've seen who have followed Dream, Save, Do and other things like that, what are ways that trying new things have benefited them and have affected how they interact with the world?
I think the biggest thing is they become more comfortable trying new things, trying different things. And so if it's just like, take an example of someone that's never tried any food outside the U.S. So my wife's brother decided that he came to visit us in Seattle, and he went and tried Indian food for the first time. He was scared of it. He was frightened that he was going to get sick, or he was frightened that it was going to be too hot, but it was what he was scared of is it was different, right? That's our fear. That's the fear of everything, is fear of being different, or it being different. And now he can't stop. He eats Indian food everywhere. He's trying to talk everybody in his little hometown to go eat it. He has to drive 2.5 hours to get it, and he's willing to do it. And so now he's done that. Since then he went for his first time. He left the country. He went to Costa Rica on a trip. He's now talking about coming to Mexico to visit us. He's got this whole plan for his life. So what's happened is, and it's such a small thing, it just opened him up. And I think that's consistent across all the people that we've talked to. They try one little thing, and it can be as small as we talked about on the podcast. It can be taking a new route home for work and just seeing something different, eating a new type of food, or going to a new store that you've never been. Those things make you more comfortable, and you do the next new thing. Now, I've just seen it happen consistently throughout the course of all the people in the book, our own lives, our friends and family. You just become more, I think, more aware of what's available to you and not scared to do those things. And I think it goes directly to the fact of why we don't quit our jobs and go follow our passion. It's fear of being different, fear of a different path. Betsy's brother is probably one of only, I bet, 15 people in that town that has ever had Indian food.
Wow.
It's just, so this idea that you don't even know anyone who's had Indian food is frightening. Just like you don't know anybody who's gone to Costa Rica, or you don't know anyone that's quit to become a painter. So going after those things starts with the comfort of trying something new and consistently pushing yourself to do it every day. And you know this. You talk about this all day long and break the fear. I'm preaching to the choir here.
No, but it's good stuff, man. I can hear it all day long, and I try to drive home these really simple points and put a lot of emphasis on them because they're so important and can be used in every single day. Constantly pushing yourself outside of your comfort zone, no matter what the context, no matter how scary it is to you compared to somebody else. Because I realize that most people I'm reading something I wrote at some point. Most people live in a fucking bubble, and they never step outside of their hometown, their social circle of their crappy friends, or they never step outside of their thoughts and ideas. But when you start to interact with the world and try Indian food and things like this, it does really kind of, you realize like you're living such a small existence, and then when you kind of you penetrate outside of that, like Betsy says, one of her favorite movies that kind of like really made her realize, like The Matrix, it was like exactly. So many, like, let's step into the Matrix or out of the Matrix. I don't know which direction, but, opening yourself up and because I think that, it's funny. I use an analogy I learned from real estate, and one that I learned, I forget where, but business begets business. I got this from a real estate investor I know, very successful guy. And creativity begets creativity. And also, pushing yourself outside of your comfort zone, you continue to push yourself out of your comfort zone. And just by doing that, no matter what you do in 5 years or in even less than that, 2-3 years, you will be a different person. You will be living your life in more accordance with your values and with your passion. So, it's simple stuff. But again, we like simple metaphors. So, get out there and try Indian food.
Yeah, just try something new. And it doesn't have to be big. And it may not cause your life to shift 180 degrees. But what it will do is open yourself up to the possibilities of what is out there so that you can make choices and then take action.
Definitely. Looking at the clock, guys, I know we have to wrap up. I have a good little thing here I'm going to share at the end. But Scott, do you want to mention? Do you have any questions or anything before we wrap up?
No. I enjoyed the talk. I'm grateful for Warren for coming on today, and he's got Warren and Betsy both have a really cool story, and I think it's great that they're not only doing that and writing about it, but also the things like writing about your finances and everything. It just it makes it really real, and I think one of the best ways to get people to change is to lead through example, and that's what you guys are doing. So props for you doing that.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Yeah, I've had a blast. It's really fun talking to you guys. You guys are a good way to start the day. So tomorrow morning, 7 o'clock, we're just going to do it again. Ready to go.
Every day. Awesome. Yeah, great stuff. I have this in closing out, and Warren, I'm going to let you, after I'm going to read this. I just came across this morning, actually, and I think you guys have heard stuff like this, but this is the top 10 regrets in life by those who are about to die. So, and this is to kind of, this can be comical, but I also want it to be serious in a sense that if anyone out there is listening to this message, we're all going to die really soon. I mean, if your lifespan is 70, 80, or even if you live 90 years, it's not that long. I mean, I look at it as 4 quarters, right? I got my first quarter down, halftime's coming up soon, and at that point, you really got to look at this stuff. So let's run through these real quick, and then Warren, I want you to kind of close it out for us. So here are the top 10 regrets by people who are pretty much old age, about to die. Number 1, or these aren't in any order, but first one, I never pursued my dreams and aspirations. Oof, big one. I worked too much and never made time for family and friends. The next ones, I should have made more time for my friends. Same thing. Family and friends are important. I should have said I love you a lot more and told the people in my life who are important that I thought they were important. I should have spoken my mind more instead of holding back and resenting things. I should have been the bigger person and resolved conflicts and my own personal issues. And I should have saved more money for retirement. There we go. Just Warren, I love how you guys talk about saving all the time. It's definitely important. And I'm trying to save the best one for last here. Here's a good one. Not having the courage to live truthfully. What do you think about that one? Not having the courage to live truthfully, Warren.
Well, I think truthfully is a very big word, and you need to clarify that. But I think being true to yourself as to what you want most ties in very closely to the rest of them. Being able to live true to yourself first, and then being truthful in your actions and your words to other people. You can't do one without the other.
Definitely. I thought that list would have been cooler than it was. Some of them were mediocre, but it's kind of like just saying, look, we're going to die soon, and a lot of people die, and they're upset and they're pissed off because they didn't go after their dreams. They didn't follow their curiosity. They didn't dig into their passions. They didn't live their life honestly. They lived in fear. They lived in fear and they didn't take action. So I encourage you out there, if you're listening, you're on the fence, dream, save, do, follow your passions, move forward, keep rocking. Check out marriedwithluggage.com. Warren, thanks so much for joining us. Scott, always a pleasure.
Thanks, Warren. Oh, yeah,
hey,
definitely.
Absolutely. You guys have a great day. Thanks for everything.
All right. Talk to you soon, guys.
Yep. See ya.
Cool.